You are listening to episode 257 of the Peaceful Mind Podcast. Welcome to the Peaceful Mind Podcast, a place for creating the peace of mind you need to be the best mom you are created by God to be. If you want to bring more balance, more joy, and more peace to your motherhood, this is the place for you. I'm your host, certified life coach and Catholic mom, Danielle Thienel. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, let's get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Danielle, your podcast host. I'm so glad you're here. I'm excited about this topic today. We're going to talk about buffering, and I want you to get to know a little bit more about what it is, if that term is new to you, because if you find and relate that this is something that you're doing, I want to say that we're all doing it in some form or fashion, then hopefully there's something you hear today that's going to help you do less of it, because it does bring negative consequences to our lives. It has negative effects when we buffer. And I want to bring it to light today. This is a concept I first learned from Brooke Castillo at the Life Coach School. And being certified from there, I get access to reuse her work. And so I want to let you know that what I'm talking about today is coming from a pamphlet that beautifully kind of talks through and summarizes this idea and concept of buffering and how to stop it. And again, we're always looking to enhance our lives. This is what I hope from this podcast. I bring to light some things that maybe you don't realize is happening with your life, or it's you just don't have any consciousness or awareness of it yet. And so I'm trying to fill in that knowledge mind gap. And when there are moms that are seeking to have more peace and joy in their life, I know for sure that if you're someone who is buffering in your life, which in a nutshell, what it means is that it is where it's when you find yourself overing, you're doing anything like over, like for instance, if you're overeating, if you're over drinking, if you're over spending, over gambling, like the addictions that fall into someone who does goes to the extreme, the overing. If you can define that you do that, then that's the form of what we mean by buffer. We are trying to fit in a buffer to us feeling negative. So we go to things that bring us pleasure. And then I want to offer what Brooke will call in here that I'm offering from her, kind of summarizing her works is, and her thoughts behind it all, is it is when we don't want to feel bad, and then we do something pleasurable, like have more food, have more sweets, have another drink of alcohol, get a little dopamine hit by buying something else. And we're doing that because there's some underlining uncomfortableness and pain that we are trying to avoid. And we think that the just pressing buy and having something delivered right away is going to bring us this pleasure. And sometimes it does from this dopamine, but it is a short-lived pleasure. We want to say it's actually a false pleasure. So let's just dive in. And again, as you're listening, I want you to just contemplate, is this me? Does this relate to me? Am I doing this in my life? Do I think that what Danielle's offering here might be something that would be good to have a little bit more attention to? I'm really wanting you to maybe just notice and be on to yourself, bring an awareness to your life if in fact you find yourself buffering. And then hopefully you'll hear something on the podcast today that can help you address it so that we can definitely move towards stop buffering or have less buffering in our life. Buffering is something we do to keep from fully experiencing our lives, to not show up and actually face what's happening. We don't want to face the truth sometimes in our lives because we don't want to experience any type of negative emotion. And we want to feel happy instead. And a lot of us out there are thinking that we want to feel pleasure all the time. Well, we have this pull to feel pleasure all the time. That kind of makes sense. Like we can relate to that a little bit. And part of the reason for this is that we are constantly bombarded with ways that we can feel better or feel pleasure. For instance, you should go out and eat something. You should go out and buy something. You should go and drink something, right? There's lots of money spent on helping us realize or see we should do a pleasurable thing, right? It's bombarded in our marketing, right? To eat more, drink more, spend more of your money. These organizations and corporations, they take advantage of this from us, right? Playing on our natural inclination that we want to seek pleasure. And then it's compounded by selling us things that have like concentrated pleasure in it. And not only do we want them for the pleasure that we will feel when we have them, but we see them almost as like we have to have them or they're super important for us for even to survive. And they're important to us because they trick our brain into thinking that this dopamine hit that's released when we do buy something or eat something sweet, or watch, scroll or kind of watch another show on television, right? We build this habit where our brain believes this is the most important thing, right? To have this kind of pleasurable thing all the time. So it becomes perpetual. It's a perpetual issue in our lives. The more we purchase, the more we eat, the more we drink, then the more we purchase, eat, and drink. There's that cyclical. And we begin to feel entitled to have this good feeling all the time. So this leads us to why we're doing what we're doing, right? There is the way our brain is wired, and there is what certain chemicals bring us into our body, like this dopamine, and there's where we are in our world today where we have such access to these pleasurable things. But what I want to open you up and teach you about today is that this ease of pleasure may not be what it is that you actually want to be striving for, and it's not actually a good thing for you to live that most authentic life that God intends us to live. I want to offer that actually to value more of less of things, less food, less drinking, having less stuff around you. Because when we do that, I think and believe in my whole heart that you will discover more, that less isn't better. And if you're hearing me saying like, I'm not one of those people, okay, right? But I want you to ask yourself, like, what about me? Have I considered the possibility that my life would be better if I didn't have as many false pleasures in my life? Meaning the overeating, over drinking, over shopping, whatever you gravitate to, the over scrolling, the over, numbing out. This is where that word buffering comes. It's like, you're buffering when you like feel bad or you're trying to avoid feeling bad so that we go to one of these items and so that we can kind of disconnect from ourselves so we don't have to feel the feeling, right? I want you to say, is this happening in my life? Do I think I am overing something so that I can place a buffer from actually doing the hard thing of learning how to feel bad? Because when you stop to actually think about your life and to evaluate it, when you decide and see that, yes, maybe I am somebody who is buffering, okay, then it can show you that if you learn to lessen it or even stop it altogether, you will then be able to open up your brain to be able to focus on so many other things that wouldn't bring a false pleasure to your life, but a real, true pleasure. And it will help you open up to what are the things you do want in your life, right? If you don't want to overeat, overdrink, overshop, well, then you'll be able to open up to the things you do want. And that includes what you want to do with your life, what you want to do in the world, what you want to do with your kids, what you want to do with your family. And just kind of prepping, like it's not easy. It will cause you to actually have to feel your feelings and lean into not feeling good and feeling negative feelings. But if you can open up to what would be on the other side of that, if you were someone who didn't buffer, didn't go after false pleasures, right? Didn't do all of the overing, like when we're stressed, we didn't actually go to the food, then what would you have to do? What you would actually have to open yourself up to process through and allow that feeling of stress and get curious about it and learn about it, and you will actually move through it. And then what is left? What remains when you stop buffering and you actually feel the stress, right? What is left after that? And that's where I think that is so exciting about to step into the journey of figuring out. Because right now your brain probably says, well, it's just more awful. And I want to open up to you that if you stop buffering, and learning to do that in the process is a little bit hard, but actually what you come out with on the other end is so much more of an authentic, pure joy and a pure, like a new sense of control, a new sense of possibilities and openness. But we can't ever get there, right? Because in our society, there's so much of the over drinking, overeating, over watching Netflix, over scrolling, over shopping. Because if you're constantly rejecting unhappiness, you're trying to solve it by seeking false pleasure instead, and you're never going to get yourself out of that loop. If you feel unhappy, you overeat. You watch Netflix. Then you feel even more unhappy. So then you overeat. And then you watch more Netflix. And you feel even more unhappy. But what is the world like if you don't ever overeat, overdrink, overspend, or overwork? What would it be like to feel unhappy and then not eat or drink afterwards? If you can't answer that question with an answer like I know, like you've experienced it before, so you know, like, yes, it is hard. And then on the other end of that, if I don't, then I actually get like a different idea, or I move into, getting a project done. Or if you can't hear me ask that question, like, what would your life be like if you didn't do these things? Then you're someone who I want to maybe step into owning, okay, maybe I'm helping myself get way better at buffering. And now I decided I think it might behoove me. It might be best for my life if I actually start getting more focus on why that's happening, what's beneath it, what do I think is going to happen if I don't buffer? Am I keeping myself from an authentic joy? If so, what do I do to be able to become someone who doesn't buffer and actually learns how to feel my feelings? These are the kind of things that this episode I'm trying to just help you contemplate, right? Because if you want to live an authentic life, I want to know, are you willing to live without any manipulations that come from overdoing things, from having that really strong, pleasurable things all the time? So, for example, when I eat a lot of sugar, I then reinforce and I get that dopamine hit. That usually comes at a time when I'm not feeling good or stressed or overwhelmed, and I just want that feeling to go away. So I grab the sugar, and it gives me this sense that I've done something wonderful, right? I've helped myself out, is what my brain tells me. My brain actually says, that was brilliant, great job. And so you feel good because you just ate that sugar in the moment. But now, do I really feel happier? Or is it just a trick that my brain gave me, and it tricked me into thinking that I've done something wonderful? Yeah, my brain has tricked me, right? It is not, this is the false pleasure, because with it also then becomes this really letdown, this negative of, I can't believe I just ate all that. I'm never going to be able to control my eating. Now my stomach hurts. And there's the high glucose levels and the weight gain. And so really it was like a pleasure in the moment thing. And then we do that again and again and again, with the real drive being, I didn't want to feel bad. I didn't want to feel stressed. And we've just reinforced this loop. But maybe this next idea is really what this all boils down to, that I'm hoping to show you. And that is that it's okay to feel bad. It's okay to feel unhappy sometimes. It's okay to feel negative emotion like disappointment and sadness, or even a little anxiety, right? Feeling negative emotion is not the end of the world. It's actually part of this earthly world experience. And when we think that it's not, that it's wrong, that we shouldn't, that the goal is happy all the time, that is when we all do the action of buffering. When we replace the work of feeling the negative emotion, we replace it with a quick, fast dopamine hit. And then we give ourselves this false sense of pleasure, but it's actually it's having us go in the opposite direction of someone who lives an authentic life, a life that is full of wonderfulness, but also hard stuff, because we're picking the numb out route each time. And the reason why many of you will hear this and say, well, that's nice. And that's, the idea of learning to be someone who feels bad and doesn't do these kind of quick, easy fixes. But sometimes you might hear it and be like, I'm not willing to go through it, right? Because this is what happens when you stop buffering. You will feel pain and discomfort. Buffering is what we do to avoid this pain. So it makes sense that when you try to stop it, like I'm offering you today, or lessen it, I'm actually giving you an invitation. I'm like, here, welcome, stop buffering. And you 100% will feel discomfort when you try and stop it. But again, I must underscore what might not be thinking about, or what we might not be focused on, is what is on the other side. What kind of life will you have if you are someone who doesn't buffer? And there's only one way to find out, and that price to pay is more pain and discomfort of not seeking those fast, quick pleasures when you aren't feeling well, right? Most of us, we don't understand this, and we make it impossible in our mind that we can stop this. It's similar to walking into a house and you turn on the lights, right? Let's say the house is a mess. And the obvious and easiest answer is to simply just turn off the lights, turn it back off, right? And I'm giving this explanation is when you turn the lights off, this would be buffering, right? So you want to turn the lights off so your brain's like, oh no, the mess will go away when I turn it off. And it like that's you buffering. But what's the truth? The truth is the mess doesn't go away. It's still there. You just can't see it. And it's the same with your emotions. When you buffer or avoid emotions, it does not make the emotion go away. It just makes us not see it or feel it. And then what's happening is we're pretending that it isn't there, but it is there. And actually, when we feel negative, it's there for a reason. It's there to tell us something and to learn something from, but we can't do that if we then choose buffering that hides it and covers it up. And it's temporary cover up. So our next job is to remember that the mess might seem overwhelming, or this negative emotion you're having might feel overwhelming, but I'm here to tell you, you can handle it. You can clean it up. Turning the lights out makes it impossible to clean it. So if you're like, I don't want to bother, I'm fine with buffering, right? Doesn't mean it'll go away just because you can't see it. I want you to not stay unconscious about buffering if you're somebody who overeats, overdrinks, overspends. I want you to not be unconscious about it. If you decide that you are okay with how you handle your negative emotions and you buffer, then that is your agency and right to do. I want to offer some consciousness to those who are open and willing to kind of explore the discomfort and pain that they have and what is it that's going on in their life that they are covering up and buffering with, and what it might look like for you if you step into actually becoming someone who doesn't avoid pain and discomfort, but steps into it and actually feels it, right? Because when you stop buffering, you actually start living a true, authentic life. You start seeing what's exactly going on in your mind and emotions, and you face it and you take responsibility for it. You are more intentional and deliberate and conscious in your life, and you evaluate the patterns that led you to buffering in a way that will then motivate you to change. Right? I don't want you to have a life where you keep running into things and turning off the lights. I want you to keep the lights on and face it and work through it. And by work throughing it, it does mean being someone who takes ownership for your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. And like anything, it takes an uncomfortableness, a risk to get on the other side of your big aspirations and dreams for your life. Okay, so today was my introduction to you on buffering. And if you listened to this and this resonated to you, I do have an episode that is directly on how to stop overeating, and it's episode number 101. And what I explain in that episode will also ring true if you just put in the words, over drinking or overspending or something like that. And so that will be a great support to what I've said here today on the how. If you have realized in what I've offered today, yes, I am someone who has been buffering in my life, and you want to learn to be someone who doesn't have those false pleasures and those net negative results in your life, like you're avoiding things, and you want to be able to face them so you can live a more authentic, joyous life and unwind the habits of overing, then I welcome you to reach out to me and set up a call and we can talk about it. Or just, again, spend this next week just becoming more aware if this is happening in your life. And that for sure is going to be an amazing first step. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast this week for this very important topic. And as always, let me know if there is something that I can help and support you with this topic. And until next week, I wish you peace be with you always. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Peaceful Mind Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you could subscribe and leave a review. It not only supports the podcast, but ensures you don't miss out on future episodes packed with insights and tools to create peace of mind in your busy mom life. And if you're of the Catholic faith like me or any Christian mom seeking to feel better in any area of your life and to show up more calm, connected, and confident, I can help. Become an empowered mom who knows how to bring about the changes you desire, no matter the circumstances. Whether you need one-on-one guidance to get there, prefer a group coaching program with like-minded women, or a self-study course, I've got you covered. Explore my private one-on-one packages, join my Busy to Balance group life coaching program, or delve into my signature course, Divine Time. To find out which path is right for you, let's meet and see what's the best fit. Schedule a free call with me at DanielleThienel.com or send me a direct message on Facebook or Instagram at Danielle Thienel Coaching. And also, don't forget to get your copy of my book, The Cyclone Mom Method, How to Call on Your God-Given Power to Remain Calm, in Control, and Confident as a Busy Mom. Dive into the digital and bonus audio version when you go to book.daniellethienel.com/new-book. You'll find all the details in the show notes too. Until next time, peace be with you always.